Greetings and welcome. This is Hope College. On lesson 11, I hope to cover chapters 10 and 11 of the King James Version Bible, the book of Genesis, which is the first book in the Bible. Chapter 10 is going to cover mostly genealogy, and chapter 11 will probably give me some opportunity to explain certain things and discuss certain things, essentially. So I will go on into Genesis chapter 10, and then I will let you know when that is concluded, because that is mostly going to be a reading of Genesis chapter 10, because Hope College / me, I do not have any commentary in regards to the genealogy. So this is the King James Version Bible, the book of Genesis chapter 10. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. Joseph, sit still, please. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramah, and Sabtecha. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Asher, and builded Nineveh, and the city Rehoboth, and Calah, and Rezin between Nineveh and Calah. The same is a great city. And Mizraim begat Ludim, and Anamim, and Lahabim, and Naphtuhim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistim, and Caphtorim. And Canaan begat Sidon his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgasite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zimmerite, and the Hamathite, and afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar, unto Gaza, as thou goest, unto Sodom, and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboim, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gepher, and Mash, and Arphaxad begat Salah, and Salah begat Eber. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. And his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan begat Almadad, and Sheleph, and Hazar Maveth, and Jerah, and Hadoram, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Mesha, as thou goest unto Sephar, a mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. This is the conclusion of Genesis chapter 10, which is all exclusively genealogies. Now we proceed to Genesis chapter 11 of the King James Version Bible. You might be reading another version at your discretion, but as stated in previous uploads, in previous lessons, if you do read another version, I won't be quoting directly from that version. So if there is some lapse in clarification, you may have to take that to someone else in order to get that clarification. This is the King James Version Bible, the book of Genesis, chapter 11. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. I wonder if brick because I was listening to a prophetess speak in regards to Noah, and she was wondering what they used for not building the ark, because I think because much of that was explained, but what was used for mortar, etc. And it says that it doesn't explain exactly what that slime is made out of, but it's saying that, at least here in Genesis, just a notation to keep in your brain, that in Genesis chapter 11, as humanity is going forth to endeavor to build something that they find grand, they are going to use brick, and they are going to use stone and slime in order to achieve that. So it is quite possible that the same mortar was used, the same mortar and slime was used to help facilitate making the ark. Verse 4, and they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. And in the year of our Lord, 2025, that would be this year that we are currently in, bless God, one could safely presume that this is still a universal reality. That if it was true then it's quite possible that it is same is still true now. That presumably God is here saying, Behold, the people of the earth in 2025 are as one, or could at least become as one. They have all See, the interesting thing is, while many of us are only know our mother tongue, we have, in fact, and I believe this was true also in these, I don't want to say prehistoric times, but in this early history, very early history that we are reading, there was a lot of moving around after, a lot of nomadic moving around, I presume, a lot of war, a lot of capturing in war, domination in war, a lot of taking, I suppose, of slaves and slave movement and slave trade that still probably persists even into this day, this modern day, and probably a lot of intermarriage, right, between cultures, between tongues, and with that you will have people who have the incentive, along with trade of goods, like I mentioned, war, due to war, trade, marriage, intermarriage between cultures and peoples. You have a lot of incentives for people to learn the language and the tongue of another people, another group. And I presume that this was happening. I presume that Daniel was one of those. I can't imagine him serving the way that he served, and him as well as his friends. I believe they all learned at least 2, if not more, languages in order to achieve everything that was achieved. It is possible that there was an interpreter, because I can imagine a king has absolutely, especially back then, would have access to things such as that, and probably quite easily, and if not by free will, which I would imagine someone as simple as a interpreter would just go along with such a thing, versus be a warrior and fight and resist that, since all you're essentially being asked to do is serve as a go-between between the king and his council and those who he wishes to understand. So I can imagine that is a possibility, but I think that it went beyond that. I think they actually learned the language. So I've always found this quite fascinating, quite intriguing, because while the Lord set in place the separate languages in order to bring about a necessary diversion and division that is healthy, so that man cannot fixate quite quickly, because man still does this, but he cannot as quickly fixate in the masses, in the numbers that he could before the different languages. And this is what man was doing. He was finding something evil to fixate upon, to set his heart and his mind on, as one united front, and then joined together. And it had to been a lot of people for the Lord to say that the sheer number, so this must have been a overwhelming majority of people. It must not have been not even like just a simple majority of a group of people, or a simple majority perhaps of like a single nation. It had, perhaps it didn't have to be, but it sounds like, it reads as though most of humanity, fixated on an evil cause, came together on an evil cause and had their sights on getting it done, and they achieved it. And this was problematic, okay? But I can imagine that back then, it will probably be shortly after, because the Lord has made human beings so intelligent that we master the other languages. But we still have that hindrance because most of us only know one tongue, our mother tongue. Okay, so I find it fascinating, the ability for some people to just have that ability to easily learn another language. After all, that incentive is there. I think almost all of us, if not all of us, if we had enough incentive. For example, let's say you adopted a child and the child is 7. So by that time, they are firmly fixed in their mother tongue. And let's say that child has another tongue and it is not your mother tongue, and you've never been one to learn a different language. I believe with all my heart that something would work. Something, I don't know what. I am not good at that. But I believe if I adopted a 7-year-old child, that some way I would learn how to not only communicate with that child, but I would learn how to communicate well with that child. Okay. I'm not sure, but I think I would get it done because I have the incentive, because that's my baby, right? So moving forward, verse 6, I'm going to reread it without my commentary and then continue on. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Verse 7, go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Verse 9, therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Wow, amen. Whoa, hold on, let me read that again. And the Lord scattered them abroad upon the face of all the earth. They must have gravitated to those who were speaking the same language. So it seems as though, now here is what's fascinating. Do you find it fascinating, kings and queens? Although some of you, if not most of you, live in the ghetto like me. Hopefully not forever. I don't hope to always live in the ghetto. I'm not gonna lie. But nonetheless, kings and queens, right? Are you fascinated by this? I believe it is quite possible. Well, I don't believe it. It reads as thus, that there was one single language, and it burns in my heart like fire. Okay? It burns in my heart like fire to know the answer to this mystery. What was the mother tongue? Have any of you ever thought about that? And I'm sorry, I know this is Hope College. I don't have the answer to that question. I'm asking, I want to know, kings and queens out there, I want to know, what is the mother tongue that from which all other tongues were born? But then here's the thing, as beautiful as that language is, because it would be the genesis of language. Are you see, that's why I do what I do, because of the passion that I have for it. Okay? And I know there's at least one or two of you out there, if not more, hopefully it's many, who are equally fascinated and intrigued by such a wonder. I'm conflicted. Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you why if you listen. I am very conflicted. I will tell you why I'm conflicted. I am both intrigued and conflicted. And this is why. The mother language is beautiful in my mind, at least in my mind, because it is the genesis of all language, the first communication. Now, I don't necessarily know if I think they did use their mouths, their lips, their tongue, but we don't know that for certain, because the Lord, after all, knows thoughts. I actually think they used everything. Quiet. I think they used everything. After all, this was prior to the fall. Prior to the fall, I believe, because a part of a lack of utilization and fulfillment of potential is sin. So I'm just doing the math here, okay? If you take sin out of the equation, you have to imagine that since sin was at one point not in the equation, everybody was operating in 100% potential. So they were communicating with God, in my mind. They were communicating with the Creator God via thought, via spirit, via heavenly tongues, as well as whatever language, whatever mother language the Lord gave them. Since they have all the equipment, it is my guess that they were using it. But since they have other equipment too that cannot be seen, I believe they were using that equipment also. Unlike us, who have to, and many of us, thank God, we learn, but unlike us who, if the preacher is successful, right, maybe he'll be able to coax us to, at some point, pray. I believe that all of the utilization of communication was at 100% from their coming to fruition. From the genesis of man to his fall, he was operating at 100%. So if he had the voice box, my guess is, if I'm right about God and what I know about God, he has the tool because he was using it. So he was using the voice box that God gave him. I don't even know if they did not at some point sing. And if they didn't sing, because we know man can sing, in his fallen state, I'm a singer, but in man's fallen state, many years into the fall, and this is our fallen state, we have those among us, I'd like to consider myself included, men and women and children with beautiful voices. So they fell, frankly, so fast, it's possible they didn't utilize that. But since they have the mechanism, kings and queens, I believe that had they not fallen, they either were singing to God, singing with God, or they would have, because during the course of a relationship, remember the relationship was new and they fell quite quickly. During the course of a relationship, it takes time to develop that relationship, and beautiful moments and events that are organic, they happen over time. So we don't know, like, we know they had the mechanism. And how can we know that? Because people have the mechanism now in their fallen state, and they have angels' voices. I like to consider myself that one of those too. But if that is the true of us many years into the fall, then I'm certain it was true of the sire and I don't want to call her, matter of fact, I won't call it because that's dog language. I'm certain it was true of Adam and Eve, the first man, the perfect man and the perfect woman, and they have everything. So I think they were communicating to God in their thoughts. They were communicating via spirit, probably via a heavenly tongue. Why do I say that they probably used a heavenly tongue? Why am I saying that? Do we have to debate it or argue over it? No, we don't. The reason why I say I believe that they used a heavenly tongue to talk to and with God is because love does something like that. Just look at a person, look at two people who are genuinely in love, and tell me that he doesn't want to teach her some of his language. Tell me that she doesn't want him to know some of her language. That is going to be, if it's real love, right? If it's real love, one of the first things that they're going to want to do is, especially the things that they love, they're going to want to communicate at least those words very quickly with the one that they love. So I know it would be like, my words would be like air condition. My words would be air condition, cranberry juice, dogs. So my man would know the words air condition, cranberry juice, dogs. He would know my sons, which I talk about a lot, my sons, and what that means, my, as in my boys. And he would know walk, nap, sleep. I like naps. I like sleep. I like walks. I like dogs. These, and somewhat laugh and think that's silly, but that is actually true. Have you ever really thought about it? You would immediately find your favorite words to share with your favorite person. Yes, you would. Don't deny it. It's true. And they would do the same with you. He would want you to know his favorite words. Like his favorite word might be football game. I don't know. I don't have a man. Ain't looking for one. But his favorite word might be football game. He might like naps too. I don't know. But at the same difference, his favorite word could be man lounge. I don't even know what they call it, because those of you who are married, maybe you know what they call it now, but like man cave, not lounge. See, I'm such a woman. Like man cave. I don't know what his favorite word would be. Probably pizza. Like if he, this is one of my favorite things that you make me. So if you make pizza and he really loves that pizza, come on now, he's gonna learn that word. If he doesn't know any other 2 words, he'll learn love, because a guy will know that's important and how much you want to hear it. So he'll learn how to say I love you. That is something he'll learn how to say in your language very quickly if it's real. And he's going to learn how to say pizza because he really wants you to make that again. But I don't want to drift off too much from my point. But my point is that, and now I forgot, but when people are, basically there's incentive. I think I started off with a child, but nonetheless, there is incentive to learn the language. Now I forgot why I was mentioning that. The name of the Bible, because the Lord did confound her. Oh yeah, and so people probably went to where. Oh, I know what I was saying. Thank you, Jesus. The heavenly tongue. The heavenly tongue. Yes. Oh, thank you, Lord. It does make sense. Thank you, Lord. See, I'm not babbling. The reason why I was saying that, I was using that as an example. Some of you may doubt what I'm saying. First of all, I'm not talking about mindless, just yuck, like dirty dating and sleeping around. I'm talking about you really have a connection. There's really a genuine interest. It's a real courtship, and you really do love each other. You're going to do something to make that communication happen. Even if it's a slow process, you'll take the time to make it happen because you really want to communicate with this person. Okay? So if naturally, I would be inclined to agree with you that if you don't have an interest in somebody, you're not going to take the time to learn their language or any of their favorite words. I've dated people who I could barely at one point say their name, but obviously in the relationship, I learned how to say their name and say their name very well and quite easily. Quite easily, because I would be the girlfriend. Of course, I'm going to know how to say my boyfriend's name. Of course. Right? So when I was speaking about, and I'm still speaking about it, the heavenly tongue, like the Lord sharing that with them, does that mean 100% that they used multiple languages? But not in the classical sense, because we know that that's not until Genesis. See, because we're reading and we're listening and thinking. We know in the classical sense that does not happen until it is explicitly stated in Genesis 11. So I'm not talking about in the classical sense. I'm talking in the multi-sensory sense, in the supernatural sense, in the real organic relationship sense, where everyone involved is deeply interested in the other person. Yes, they're going to find out how to communicate with one another. Also, communication was completely unfiltered and unhindered, something that most of us will not achieve until we die and go back to heaven. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, the Lord, I got that revelation. And am I saying that the Lord can't do a amazing, terrific work? Because he has done that with me. No, I'm totally not saying that. What I'm saying is that the person you were when he crafted you, before even the best mother and the best father got their hands on you, the world and some of its experiences, you're not that person. Some of us, and I know it sounds offensive, and I know it sounds like I'm trying to be hurtful and terrible, but I promise you that's not my motivation. It's just the truth. You were completely unguarded, completely unfiltered, and completely free. That's how God made you. And over time, you discovered these things like fear and shyness and apprehension and tentativeness. And even for some, they discovered complete muteness. And, some are just naturally have limitations biologically. But some, and we know some children, some person's speech never emerge, and then some emerge and they disappear. We know that life can be very tragic, but also I always state and declare this channel is a miracle channel. I experience miracles in my personal life. I know I'm deviating a little bit, but it's too important not to say it. I will not fail to say it. This channel is a miracle channel. Anyone who is a true believer in Jesus Christ believes in miracles. Jesus is a miracle worker, and I experience miracles, and I always believe for miracles. But it is unto the will of God, because any power outside of that is witchcraft, in my opinion. And I stand on that, okay? So as long as it is surrendered to God and in God's will, I have no problem with it. When it departs from the will of God, I stand against it. I will not do voodoo. We do not do voodoo or anything out of convenience. If the Lord chooses to heal us, bless us, supernaturally intervene, that is his will. But if he does not, then we have to die daily. our hopes, our dreams, our visions, everything that we have, the breath that we breathe. One woman lost her child. God was merciful, and he gave her her child back for a second time. But he didn't have to do it, and he still would have been God. Bless you to all of those who have lost a loved one, regained that loved one, and initially upon the first loss, you did not, before the Lord gave you your miracle, you did not curse him. And may for all of you who did curse the Lord, may he heal you. May you be healed in your faith. May your faith go stronger. And may the Lord build you up in Jesus' mighty name. So you never do it again. So you go and sin no more. But nonetheless, this is a hard saying, but it is a true saying. Okay? But I believe that in this great love, where these people are essentially adult babies, they have the best of both worlds, which we don't experience. Some of us, it is true. If you say, hey, wait, I don't want to argue with you because I don't want to strive, sister or madam, but I am walking in what you're saying does not exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying it doesn't exist the way that it once had.
We see.
Joseph. I'm saying that, yeah, I am saying that I don't believe it. Is it possible for the Lord to completely shield someone forever? I suppose it is. You know what? If you grow on a farm, have no access to social media, I mean, is there someone out there? I suppose some tribes, if the Lord touched them, but see, they also don't have the Lord, so it's still not the same thing. And they, within their little tribe, they still experience possibly rejection, lying, betrayal, war. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying it looks like I'm right. Not to brag because I'm the teacher. First, we don't know. I cannot say because I would have to claim being omniscient and omnipotent. I can't claim either one of those two things. That I know for a fact that there is not one single person that has been completely protected from all the violations of sin. I doubt that. But I suppose theoretically it might be possible, but I highly doubt it because their mother and their father are sinners. Even if they're saved, they're still in the fallen state. So since mother and father have access, even if they're amazing, at some point something has to give. So is it theoretically? That is interesting. I come up with some amazing stuff in my mind anyway. Has anyone been completely shielded from sin in the current age? I mean, look at the animals though. Even if you put the child has amazing mother and amazing father, and you put the child out into the field and it gets bit by a snake, the child has been assaulted. That wouldn't have happened in the Garden of Eden. If the child's puppy bites it, the child's been assaulted. There was no such thing like that in the Garden of Eden. That's a fear of the child will know fear for the first time. The child will know betrayal for the first time. This does not exist in the garden. And then if you're afraid and you're betrayed, that takes a tiny bit away from your trust. So now you will do what people do. You will shield yourself. And a shield is a barrier. It is a barrier between you and another person or another thing or entity. So you cannot be like, I hate to say it, but it's true. You can't be even a little bit shielded and completely open, because the purpose of a shield is to block you from me, because I believe you're gonna do me harm, either emotionally, physically, spiritually, or all of the above. So, once again, that is fascinating. Is there anybody alive right now that has been completely shielded from sin? I don't think so. So that means that the life at our best, and I do believe, first let me go into, because I know I don't want to leave out my brothers and my sisters and some of you who believe that, and for some you're telling the truth. It's true. The Lord has done an amazing work with you, that he essentially took away a lot of what only he could take away, and it had to have been supernatural. So some of you may recognize that you were actually technically sexually really experienced, but you are literally walking in not a false. He has given you a supernatural innocence that can only come from him. And it's real. It's not fake. It's not a put on. It's actually real. He did the work. You may also find that you at one point were walled off and you couldn't trust at all. And now, under the right circumstances, you see yourself that you are completely open with God. And for you, you know that it's not fake. You are actually really open with God. Perhaps for, I would say, few, pardon, I'm skeptical. If the Lord gives you a mate, okay, if the Lord does it, it's still not perfect. But if the Lord does the work, then perhaps he is taking you to a place, if that seems to be his will, because the Lord is not going to do everything for everybody the same way. That's a falsehood, right? Thank God he does variety, right? People try to force stuff on us that really doesn't suit us sometimes, right? But you might have a mate out there. Has to be at least one person maybe out there that has a mate, and you at one point didn't trust anybody. But with this mate, when you say you truly are not, you are not terribly filtered at all, and you say, I know you're skeptical, see Unique, I know you're skeptical, Charity, Sister Charity, Madam, but it is true. I am not filtered with my wife. I don't have any fear when it comes to communicating with her. I don't know how to explain it, because at one point I wouldn't talk about nothing, feel nothing, say nothing. It was just, but the Lord did a supernatural work. I'm not going to say I don't believe that. I believe it's rare. Pardon my skeptical. A red pill. But no, but on a serious note, I believe for the Lord's purposes, in certain scenarios where it suits him to do a supernatural work, he will do a supernatural work. But it is a supernatural work, and it's not, he's not passing around like candy, right? And the organic is difficult to find. So for some of you out there, I do believe that while you are not, which proves what I'm saying, you are not that baby, you are not that person who has never been touched by sin and never been impacted by sin. You are not that completely free person that, like, when the Lord says hello, you, because that's all you know, you naturally say, yes, my God, Heavenly Father, what do you want from me? That's not most people's existence. That's not what most people, all they know. Okay, at one point, that's all Adam and Eve knew, is that. And most of us can't claim that, oh, if we only could. But do some of us walk in that, even if it's hard to believe? Even if people may be skeptical. I do believe they do. But it still doesn't mean they've not been touched by sin. It means in a certain category of their life, the Lord may very well, because we know the Lord knows how to protect his interests and his plan. When he has a very specific assignment for a specific person, he will preserve them in the area where he has a very specific desire. So if the Lord has a purpose and a plan for someone in which he wants them to have a spouse in which there is no fear, he will preserve that person. And if they are touched, he will do a supernatural work to remove all fear for his very unique purposes, because the Lord sometimes has very specific will, and he will guard and protect his very specific assignment and will in the earth. But that is not passed out like candy. I'm sorry. It's not. So the reason why I say I'm building on this, it's a foundation, mind you, not babbling again, is that in this scenario where there's no barrier, there's no wall, there's no in between, there's no blockages, there's no, oh, I wonder if God can hear me. No, like, it's completely flowing communication. I believe that God was like, this language here, right? And they would have been like Abba Father. Like I'm making this up a little bit because we know that I believe is the Jewish language, but nonetheless, they would have responded either they're in their thought, in their heart, like, Abba Father, what is this? And he would have said, this is the angel's language. And they would have been like, wow, right? And he would have shared those things super easily, because they wouldn't have been afraid, and they would have heard him clearly, because there wouldn't have been any blockages, and they would have believed on sight. There was no introduction of doubt at that time. So provided they got there, that's the thing, because of how quickly they fell. Provided they got there in the course of their relationship, when their relationship was perfect, you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Provided they got there, I believe they sang to him. If they didn't, because he gave them the mechanism for purpose, that means that I believe at one point he was hoping down the line, but he knew they were going to sin because he is all-knowing. But in his perfect will, eventually they would have sung. Would they have sung as beautifully as Lucifer? Hold on, let's stop. God has, he is, after all, the King of Kings. That's one of his names, King of Kings. Lord of Lords is another one of his names. So he is as a king, is he not? Yes, he is, because he said he is. So a king has much to his disposal, but does that mean, and there would be also no insecurity? That's no such thing. Prior to the fall, ladies and gentlemen, there's no insecurity. So they would have known before the fall, they would have accepted, had they known, because I believe that they may have been innocent about a lot of these things. I believe that they probably had the knowledge of children, but the mental maturity, because they were sexual, and it was appropriate and beautiful and healthy. So they were sexual beings, mature beings, but as innocent as children. Yep, I know. All those things were there. So having the mechanism, come on. So why did I mention insecurity? Am I just babbling? Am I getting off point? You should know better by now. So why would he give them the mechanism? Being the King of Kings, he has to his disposal hosts of angels, does he not? but they wouldn't have been insecure. Now, whether he shared the knowledge of all of his creatures, because he has other creatures, we can read that in Revelation. They are created to please him, praise him, and serve him, and minister to him 24/7. They are beautiful, beautiful. Lucifer, I believe, was created for the purpose of music. But before the fall, see, you and I could be impacted by jealousy and insecurity, but it's quite possible that at a lower level, at a lower estate, they would have sung and sung beautifully, but not as beautifully as Lucifer. But guess what? Why would he give them the mechanism if he didn't expect them to use it? I know, you ain't heard it nowhere else. I believe that whether he gifted them in music or not, he wanted the relationship to go to the point where they would be singing to each other. Yes, that God, you think God can't sing? Like, are you really gonna sit here and be like, God can't sing? The one who made audio. Like, he could snap his fingers and there's no such thing as audio. That'd be terrible, right? I just did that to mesh with you a little bit, but actually to teach you a lesson. To teach you a lesson, ladies and gentlemen. He conceived audio. There was no such thing as audio before him. Sound waves, and music. He's the God of harmony. He knows things about harmony we have not discovered yet. Am I speaking boldly? Yes, I am. But I'm going to stand on it. I believe he knows things about audio we haven't even dreamed of yet. I believe we know this much about audio, and he knows this much about audio. But nonetheless, to give them the mechanism. So after the fall, right, you can imagine, after the fall, he would be reluctant, perhaps, right? Because people are going to be like, well, isn't that not, you have angels that can sing. You have angels that can sing to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they are very beautiful. And they are majestic. Some people believe that angels can put 1 foot. I don't imagine to know, but I do believe that all of the above is true. I believe he probably has varying sized angels, but some people believe that an angel can put 1 foot on one city and another foot in another city. Is that possible? I absolutely believe it is possible. Especially territorial angels warring to fight territorial fallen angels. I do believe they're large. It's larger than life. But nonetheless, come on. Give us the mechanism. I know I'm staying on this because we're in love. At least I am. And loving you genuinely, like I claim to, I presume that you are in love too with Jesus. So I am intensely interested in this. Come on now. Why would you give someone a mechanism if you didn't expect them to use it? Why would you do it? So he gives them the voice box, but he doesn't expect them to sing? Come on now. So I believe that loving relationship that was entirely fulfilling was meant to culminate into a singing both ways. God would have the angels sing. God would emanate music, yes, from himself. Music for them to listen to. Its music is a form of communication. Some days he will say hello, and then some days they wake up in the garden and there is music coming from God with no perceived instruments. God is the instrument. The music is emanating from him that they are hearing. There is no fear, and they perceive it as a normal occurrence. Can you imagine that's what we're missing out on? That is what he wanted for us, I believe. What we're missing out on. So yes, eventually, because when the love is real, and with God, of course, it's going to be real, the relationship progresses in intimacy. So you have a hello, and then the fact, those first conversations, have you ever thought about it? The first conversations when you were looking at your brand new creation and talking to it, you didn't think about it. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I mean, remember back, I'm a mother. The first things I said to my boys when I saw them and they were born to me. Oh, I will get private. I'll tell you what I said to one of them. I don't remember what I said to. I will take care of you. To me, to my soul, that came from my soul. That is the most beautiful thing I could say to another person. You might feel like it was too simple or something, but I feel like it's different when it comes from your soul. Like, quite frankly, if it comes from someone's soul, that's gonna sound different. It's gonna hit different. So the first thing, I see this child, and he's beautiful. And the first thing I can think of is, I will take care of you. I'm sorry if it's not beautiful enough for some of you. But in my mind, it was very beautiful because it was organic and I meant it. I just wish that every parent would mean it and say it. But it wasn't I love you, and I do love my sons. It was I will take care of you. I guess because I'm a woman of action. So if you don't take care of someone, how could you possibly love them? I'm a woman of action. Okay. So those pipes, you know, this intimacy thing that people talk about, they talk about God talking in the cool of the garden, and yes, yes, yes. But I think about relationships and how they tend to be. But then I put this relationship in a superior category where there is only fulfillment, there is no fear, and there's no blockages. Then I look at the biology. They have the pipes. They have the mechanism, but they're a lower estate than Lucifer. So what does that mean? Like, I think they would have eventually been singing to each other. I think that God might have mentioned at least one heavenly language, and they would have fully understood it. And if they didn't, he would teach them. He would teach them. And they would learn quickly. How would they learn so quickly? Isn't that difficult? Well, they have no hindrance in their mind. Fear inhibits learning. You can't learn when you're nervous, tentative, and afraid. You can't do it. I don't know why, but I know it for a fact. It blocks it. Part of your brain stops receiving input because you're so focused on the fear that you can't focus on gaining knowledge. So in certain cases, the fear has to be addressed before learning can even be introduced. Or it has to be addressed simultaneously in order for learning to continue. But there was no fear here. So at a lower estate, all these things I believe were possible, and all these things may have taken place. And the sad part, like a man who takes a woman that he loves dearly And he actually expects to be married for the rest of his life. But she has other wayward plans, now doesn't she? So she commits adultery, and while he was planning the rest of their lives. And God knows what that would have consisted of, probably many children, taking her around the world. See, the cessation of a relationship and the introduction of sin is essentially what happened in the Garden of Eden. It cessates all those good things that were intended to happen. So the fact is, I stand on it, that we don't know the full potential that God wanted for them. But I do believe that music was one of them. And possibly him teaching them a heavenly language that was not of this earth, right? Because when you love someone and the relationship grows, you want to do stuff like that with them, right? And I'm sorry for anyone who may not have ever felt that. I don't know what to say. I will say this, like, I'm in the same boat, so like, I don't know. I can still imagine it. I don't know why. I guess maybe because I'm empathetic or something, or very observant, but I can still imagine it. But we're in the same boat because I'm not married or anything. So yeah. But we don't. So my point is that all these things were quite possible. We don't argue about it like Paul admonished. It's nothing to argue about, but was it going to be a thing? I believe all of it was on the schedule. Stuff we can't wrap our mind around was on the schedule, where just like fluent in a heavenly language. Why? Because they're my babies. So my babies is speaking, my babies down on earth speaking Heavenese and English because I wanted them to. I mean, look at how he treated Abraham. And Abraham was after the fall. So if you can imagine all the things he wanted to share with his two babies. But he couldn't, because they became enemies by their own choice, right? But if only they had stayed friends, all of the memories and all the beautiful things that I'm sure he had planned for them. Okay? So, verse 5, and the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And once again, like the horrible thing is they continue on, and you might be like, well, why? If God is all this love that you say, like he wanted us to not have any fear, to not have any tentativeness, to not have walls and blockages and all this stuff, then why, like, not even pain during childbirth? That was not even supposed to be a thing. You know, to have many children and not be in pain at all. It just be only joy. Oh, awesome. I would have probably had 20 children. I would have to have a husband first, but after that, 20 children, because it doesn't hurt to have children. And I can afford all these children because all the food is free because it's growing on trees. Amen, right? Like, but nonetheless, like we could all have, in his world, we could all have had 20 children. We could have lived to see them grow forever, see our grandchildren and our grandchildren's grandchildren, and it'll all be for free. We wouldn't have had no bills to pay. Oh my goodness. Let me not tease myself too much, because thinking about what we could have had. But anyway, so this guy, going back to what I know some of you may presume I completely abandoned. No, I didn't. Okay, so going back to this God that you say wanted all this, that he would have potentially loved them that much, that you're expressing that at one point we were completely innocent, but sexual creatures at the same time, and it was beautiful, and we were mature, and all we knew was love, and all we knew was satisfaction and fulfillment. And you're saying that now this is like, it was that, and now it's this, what we're experiencing now, right? Like, and well, how can God be good? Like, if, and I'm like, I know you didn't ask, but I pretend. Glad you asked, didn't ask. We'll pretend like you asked. So understand, once again, note that this will continually be a theme, sadly, tragically, while we're going over the Bible. They're going to sin again. Okay? So people are sinning again. And understand, imagine that all these things, and you don't have to imagine, it's true, but put in your mind all these things I'm saying is true. That this is what God wanted for us. Something that most of us have, something we've never known. A security that we've never known. A peace that we've never known. And this is what He wanted for us. Not what we wanted for ourselves. Because we come into this earth not knowing anything. Before we knew anything, before we were even a speck in someone's eye, this is what He wanted for us. Perfect peace, perfect love, perfect joy, and flawless, fearless communication. And continuously you see the same pattern, the same theme, where these people are building something away from Him. See it from His perspective. See it with God eyes, from the right perspective. Everything that they want is there. And they continue to build down hell. They are trying to replace God instead of Him. It is very self-defeating. It is like a curse that they put on themselves continuously, right? So they don't want God. They're like not seeking Him. They're not seeking anything. They're not doing that. They're going in the opposite direction. Kings and queens. They're going in the opposite direction. They're not going in the direction that I was speaking of. Now, they could not attain that perfectly. If I was to be perfectly honest, they can't do it on this side of heaven. But they could have something way more beautiful than what they were settling for. Okay, so they don't want even what is still attainable, because He still has something that is attainable to us. He had, even in the old covenant, He was attainable, and certain blessings were attainable, but they didn't want it in the old covenant. And now you see in 2025, people are not wanting what's attainable in the new covenant. They're going in another direction, in the opposite direction, and rejecting Him. So the Lord sees this. He sees this rejection, this rebellion, that is a pattern of behavior, that is self-defeating, that's like a curse. Verse 6, and the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. 7, hold on, before I read verse 7, we talk a lot, we say very little. I'm going to say it again. And it's fact. I was about to say I'm putting my life on it, but let me not be so immature with my wording. What I would say is this. I stand on this. In 2025, even among, and it's not a sin to speak, and it's not a sin to know different languages, but I tell you why. Because all you have to do is look at what communication was prior to the fall. Yes, I know, something we cannot attain at that level now. But if you compare it to what we have now, we talk a lot. We say very little. Back in that time, you could say very little and you said everything. For example, I'll give some examples. In the right spirit, in the right context, Abba, love, I love you. Please, thank you. Wife, husband. Can you imagine a people that say very little, but almost everything they say has a huge impact because there's no lie, there's no deceit. It's all organic. It's supernatural. There's perfect understanding. What we do now, one could say, and I'm not trying to be like some kind of way, but on a serious note, people use the word like retardation or an impediment, etc., for those who struggle. But if mankind were to take all the facade off and strip down to the bare truth and tell the truth and let it be told plainly and truthfully, we are all speaking as if we are crippled compared to the communication prior to the fall. Blockages, lack of faith, fear, worry, depression, apprehension, insecurity, all these things are severe impediments. They are disabilities. And yes, I'm saying humanity is disabled after the fall. Humanity is, I will stand on it. It's the truth. You even see some people now, they say very little. You will see, and how can you test it? How can you test it? Because you will see glimpse and glimmer. You will always find, if you look hard enough, you will see glimpses of God. You will see glimpses of the truth. You will see signs of the truth and evidences of the truth if your eyes are open. You will see a couple where they're speaking very little, but what they say is pure and honest and impactful, and they have excellent communication. They fully understand each other because maybe the Lord just wanted to bless them in that regard. Maybe he wanted to use them as a sign and as a wonder that this is what it used to be like. This is what it looked like before y'all rejected me. Now you spend hours on the phone and you end up in divorce court. I tell you, it is flipped. The world is flipped. It is insane. To spend hours on the phone and not achieve anything. How do you waste that kind of time? How do you talk for so long and achieve nothing? How do you talk for so long and bear no children? How do you talk for so long and hate one another? How do you have sex so much and never achieve making love? Tell me, I dare you to say that humanity is not crippled. It is the time, we are of generation, of the most time-wasting generation of all generations, saying hours and hours of nothing that culminates into nothing. Truly, even when we don't know it, In the midst of mocking God, we mock ourselves, because God can sit back and laugh and say, how this man that you spoke to for 50,000 hours and it still ends up in divorce court, but yet you mock me? God is kind. No, he's kind. Because any mockery of him, the earth is a testament. The earth is crying out that we are the mockery, not him. How do you say, I love you, 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 and still get divorced? How do you say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, and still not provide? How do you do that? How are you so ineffectual? How is these generations at present can't accomplish or achieve anything? And if they do, they can't make it last. I'm trying to tell you. Some things in this life, many things will be twisted. Many things will be twisted, and only a few of us of the remnant will see with God's eyes, because everything ain't always what it looks like. Many of the things that we're impressed by, they have no staying power. They will be here today and gone tomorrow. They are a fleeting, fickle, ineffectual thought. And those of us who are mature will dismiss the trends, because the trends never last. They never do. And neither does trendy love. It's a waste of time. That may sound harsh, but trendy love is a waste of time. Love has never changed. But y'all ain't trying to hear that. Love is love, and love has never changed. Love was love at the very beginning. How do we know? Because God is love, and God says he is love. Love is love, and when love is in effect, love remains. Love has lasting power. Love is effectual. Love is not a trendy thing. Love existed before all trends, and love will outlast every trend. I promise you that. Love is the best communicator, the highest communicator, and the only effectual communicator. It is the only communicator that can build that which lasts and not destroy unprovoked, because it can destroy in a good way. Love can fight too. But nonetheless, it is true. We of the remnant, God doesn't want us to be a people full of words and noise, and we lack all substance. We're talking and we saying nothing, and that's not what the Lord wants for us. Right? So the generation where, one can carry for 9 months, carry a baby for 9 months, but the baby is supposed to result in a baby, right? And then you raise the baby. But the generation where you carry the baby maybe, see, can't last. A non-lasting, ineffectual generation that does not have staying power. Love is committed. Love fulfills the form and the function for which it was designed. So if the womb was to carry the baby, love carries the baby. Then love, being committed, love grows the baby up. That's what love does. But of this generation, It's all interconnected. Right? Like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I don't like the music that's being played. I shouldn't say that, but I really don't. I just don't. I didn't say I hate the neighbors. I don't hate anybody, but I'm really picky about my musical taste. Nonetheless, I'm going to try to concentrate. And I'm going to have one of my sons close the window so I can hear it a little bit less, right? Joseph, baby, go. Baby, go. I had to adjust my wig, right? So I can be presentable. Joseph, go close the window for me, baby, because I can't do this. Baby, close the window, Joseph. Baby, please rescue me. I cannot do this. Right, like I just see, and when like yeah, like I cannot endure. I can't. It was a love song, and yeah, I know. But what I just finished talking about, right? Like empty words, right? I'm too old and too I can't endure this. Right. And I wasn't even enjoying it because I don't even particularly like the song. So, and I love songs, by the way, but it at least got to sound genuine for me to like really be into it, and I really have to like the person's voice. But I'm gonna get off of that because I don't want to go on the neighbor's music. But yeah, I'm not enjoying it, right? Like so odd that I would be talking about empty, useless words and like redundant, like nonsense that has no staying, lasting power whatsoever and is completely lacking substance. Yeah, okay, there you go. Okay, so now verse 6. And the Lord said, behold. Okay, I'll go back to 5. And the Lord came down to the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. Verse 6. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. But they can't imagine to do something good. See, this is why, and this is one of the reasons why pardon. It's one of the reasons why I choose to be to myself a lot, because they couldn't imagine to do something positive, right? Out of all the things they could have unified on, they picked this. Seriously, and this is why. This is why. One of the reasons why. I'd rather be by myself. So the Lord, verse 7, go to, let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. They were already, like, in my mind, Hope College, I represent Hope College, our existence and our language, our tongues are already crippled. But they extra crippling them, right? By using what is already defiled and already crippled and corrupted and handicapped, all of us, and taking it and morphing it into something that's actually even more evil, thereby corrupting and crippling it even more. This is what they choose to do with their time and their efforts and their language, their speech that comes out their mouth. Verse 8, so the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years, and begat Salah. And Arphaxad lived after he begat Salah 403 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Salah lived 30 years, and begat Eber. And Salah lived after he begat Eber 403 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years, and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 430 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years, and begat Reu. And Peleg lived after he begat Reu 209 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years, and begat Serug. And Reu lived after he begat Serug 207 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and begat Nahor. And Serug lived after he begat Nahor 200 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years, and begat Terah. And Nahor lived after he begat Terah 119 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years, and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begat Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren, she had no child. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees, to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran, and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years. And Terah died in Haran. This is the conclusion of Lesson 9, Genesis chapter 10 and 11. So it is established that we have successfully concluded these two chapters. Lesson 10 contains genealogies. Understand that my mother tongue is not Hebrew nor ancient Hebrew or Jewish. If you want exact pronunciations of those names in the genealogy, you're going to have to go to someone who is more astute in that, perhaps a theologian, historian, or even try a Jewish friend who may have more of a understanding of the proper pronunciation for each name. And I don't presume that you don't want that information. Why would I do that? So if you do want that information, I'm not the one to obtain it from. My best guess is a Americanized best guess, but it is my best guess. And I proceed reading for the purpose of reading and getting through the material in a practical fashion, but not necessarily a historical, accurate pronunciation. For that, you will have to seek further and go to the right source for that type of expertise. So in verse 11, I elaborate on what some may think is babbling, but I elaborate on how we can think of, we don't have to argue about these things, as Paul admonishes us not to argue about things that don't concern salvation in Jesus Christ. But this language is a theme. We know that language is an important part of a relationship. Communication. We covered limited communication, disabilities, etc. We covered how language tends to be an important part of relationships and how it tends to grow in intimacy in a healthy relationship. And when relationships are truncated prematurely, such as in a divorce, especially an unwarranted divorce, such as the divorce that happened in the Garden of Eden, When those are interrupted, you see naturally, because many people forget that God is a person, God is real. So you can kind of read him like that. He shouldn't be limited to that, but you need to read him like that because this was a truncated relationship, meaning it was interrupted. There was an interloper. The interloper was the snake, evil, sin, Adam and Eve's rebellion. That's the interloper. So there was a natural progression that was supposed to take place of a real relationship that was at one time quite perfect. We went to that they have pipes. They have the equipment to sing. So since this is a theme, chapter 11 of language, this language, the first one, what was the mother tongue? I said I was conflicted. I think I forgot to say exactly why I was conflicted in a bad way. So I was saying I was conflicted and intrigued. Why was I saying I was conflicted and intrigued? It's beautiful because this would have been the language, that one of the languages that they spoke to God in. Wow. Husband and wife spoke to each other in this mother tongue. What is the original mother tongue? That is fascinating. But why is it also heartbreaking? Why is it bittersweet for me? Why am I conflicted? It is the tongue in which maybe it was allowed to disappear. Maybe it's still upon the earth. Maybe it's in a little tribe somewhere that we don't know. But nonetheless, whether this language was erased from the earth, maybe because of the painful history that it contained, or maybe there's specks of this language still here on this earth, even today, so many years later. Regardless, this is the language where the Lord was betrayed. So maybe it does not exist, because if he hears that language, that is the language in which I was betrayed. That was the language in which the snake spoke to my daughter Eve, and she fell and caused Adam to fall too. Maybe God struck the language down altogether, and maybe these were all new languages that he established. Nonetheless, anyone who says that the Bible is not fascinating obviously did not read it. This is absolutely intriguing. And it is, my heart does break that even if God were to open our minds and allow us to discover the mother tongue, it comes with this bittersweet knowing. This is the tongue in which rebellion rose. And that is what makes it both beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. It is the language in which Adam and Eve spoke to one another, and maybe to God too, and he back. But it is also the language that the serpent may have spoke, and it's the language that Eve spoke when she was causing her husband to fall and took down humanity with her. It is both the Genesis mother language, and it is the tongue of rebellion at the same time. So maybe we will never discover what this mother tongue was, but it's fascinating nonetheless. So you also have how we went over into the people having incentive. Love finds a way. It does. If I were to adopt a 7-year-old child and that child speaks Portuguese, I promise you I'm going to find a way to communicate with my baby. Come hook or crook, I'm going to find a way to communicate with my baby. It's my baby by adoption. Nonetheless, I'm not good at that, but love would find a way. We know that we've learned languages. Has humanity outthought God? Have we made a mockery of him? Did we make a fool of him because he separated us and separated our languages, and then we learned all the languages? No, beloveds, for it is us that the mockery could be. Thankfully, he is kind, but the earth continues on, that at any point when we rail against him and shake our fist to the heavens, seriously, it is true. And women and men of honor They take care of themselves so someone else doesn't have to do it. They correct themselves so they don't have to be corrected. Not because they can't be, but no one should have to. Because you should correct yourself. Because you know you are out of line, out of place. So those of us who are the remnant, we know we should not do this. For we engage in much talk, but what are we saying really? And then do we achieve the goal that we set out for? We engage in contracts, assignments, but do we bring them to fruition? And if we bring them to fruition, do they last? We engage in marriage. Does it last? And what is the quality? And all this talking, what is achieved? Do you understand one another? Do you feel what I'm saying? Does it resonate? Or can I talk and it go completely over your head because you know I'm not saying anything worth listening to? When you speak, is there a wall? Is there a blockage, a blockade, a filter? Are we living under one roof as enemies? Surely the remnant, kings and queens. We will not be fools to not understand. The whole earth acknowledges the righteousness of her king. If anyone is the idiot, it's us. We are not capable of mocking him, no matter how hard we try, because the facts bear the evidence that we're hopeless unless he assigns himself to our endeavors. And our endeavors never last. They never come to fruition, and they never have any staying power, and they never have any substance unless he marries himself to our goals. So may you all be blessed, and I truly hope I served you, and I served you well in this upload. Be blessed. And I pray those who are kings and queens of the remnant, when you communicate, let your speech be pleasing to the Heavenly Father. You'll never have to worry that your speech is foolish. Be blessed. Bye.